TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift Stallion Temple City. Already 3 graded winners in 2016, including Grade 1 winner, Miss Temple City.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, we have to talk about the Arkansas Derby. It was the last of the 100-point races, and man, we saw an exciting finish in there. You know, but when we look at this Derby field, it really feels like it's going to be a wide open year this year, doesn't it?
Man, it really does. I mean, you know, you look at the last few years and you sort of had favorites holding serve. You think of California Chrome and American Pharaoh and horses like that the last few years. They sort of held serve, and they you know, had 3-4 race win streaks even coming in. Now, I know Nyquist has that, but he's run twice this year. One was a sprint race. The other one, he got a pretty, you know, easy lead on a track that carries speed at Gulfstream. And he was able to beat Mohaymen once he didn't fire that day. But, you know, you look at the runner-up in there, it was Modesto a few lengths back who took forever to break his maiden. So you really question, again, if you're one of those guys that questions Nyquist's pedigree like I do in terms of being a true classic horse, as brilliant as he was at 2, and the fact that I don't think maybe he's quite as good around 2 turns as he is at 1, you look at that 10 furlongs on a big track like Churchill, big turns, John, and I think it's easy to have reservations for a horse, even though he's an undefeated champion. You know, getting that classic distance in a big field going 1.25 miles, that's a long stretch for him to be able to hold that speed.
Well, let's take a look at the Arkansas Derby, and let's talk about, you know, this time of year you're looking for an improving 3-year-old. You have to say Creator does fit the bill in that.
He definitely does. He reminds me a lot of Nero, and I think we've talked about that on the show here before. And you see Windstar's other horse, the stablemate, he did what we thought in here in terms of being the pressing speed, Gettysburg, and Cupid just has nothing. He was done on the turn. I don't think the pace was that crazy. If you see Gettysburg, he's staying on here, but coming from the clouds, definitely the closers had an advantage in here like we thought. Creator proves best in here, John, makes that big forward movement. You know, I mentioned Nero. You know, he's a horse that Asmussen had, wasn't very precocious as a 2-year-old, took forever to break his maiden and really come around. But once the light bulb went on with the colt, if you remember Nero, he turned from a maiden winner into a grade 1 type horse like that, almost overnight. Creator's really making those strides. Now, he's had 3 pretty, you know, closely run races at Gulfstream in terms of him breaking his maiden, coming back in the Rebel, then winning the Arkansas Derby. Now he has to come back in 3 weeks. So he's been fast-tracked to the Derby. Can he now ship back to Churchill to a new track, be able to run again 3 weeks later and keep that type of form, run the race of his life against the hardest field that he's faced to date? I don't know if he can do that or not, but he's certainly a colt on the improve. He's certainly a colt that's going to like 1.25 miles.
Well, let's take a look at the, you know, the field now. We got the 20 is set. You know, obviously Cupid, everyone knows he had that tieback surgery. Looks like he's going to be out of the Derby, which gets Mo Tom in. But, you know, it's interesting when I look through here, the horses that stand out to me, you see right in this area, these are the horses that won their last big preps. You know, they're all right here. These are horses that, in my opinion, are improving and look like they're moving forward. You know, when you look at this list, tell me, what do you think about these 4 horses right here moving forward?
Well, I mean, certainly, like you mentioned, they all were grade 1 winners in major preps coming in, but none of them's paired 2 wins in a row together. You know, like I mentioned, so, you know, you start comparing them to horses that got the job done in past years. And again, it just shows you how wide open this group is. I mean, I don't even think any of these horses were the favorites in the races besides Outwork. John, he lost in the Tampa Bay Derby. So you start looking at that group. To me, what I see is Outwork, a horse that's going to be part of speed in here. And with Cupid out now and Creator in, that brings in yet another of a ton of closers in this race and takes away a speed horse. You know, we haven't seen a ton of pace in the Derby since they changed the point system, because you get all that sprint graded stakes money out and you get all that 2-year-old form graded stakes money out. And it delegitimizes the pace a little bit. We're getting real 2-turn horses, and you don't really see a ton of speed in these Derbies now. Danzy Candy's a horse that, again, you know, he's probably going to go the lead, but, you know, who knows? Maybe they try a different tactic with him this time. It just, to me, anytime you look at a field of 20 and I start looking, okay, where's the speed coming from? Danzy Candy's 1, Outwork is 2, then who else? Maybe Nyquist has tactical speed, maybe Mohaymen has tactical speed, but other than that, most of these horses like to either stalk mid-pack or even a ton of, I mean, I'd say half this field is really deep closers that are really going to try to come from the clouds, make that one run. So when I start looking at how this field's going to shape up, and I started looking at the fact that Cupid is out now, I do think you want to find a horse that has some tactical ability to put himself into position at the quarter pole turning for home.
You know, it's kind of interesting because we see in this field, you see, like you were talking about, you see some speed, you see a lot of closers, you see some mid-pack, but you also see a champion here in Nyquist. You see here a maiden. Yeah. This horse is still a maiden. I mean, so there's a wide variety of horses that are in here.
Well, I mean, he was second in the Wood Memorial, almost won it. Majesto took forever to break his maiden, was second to the champion. Nyquist is going to be your favorite. He was 3 lengths behind him, and he's might be the longest shot on the board in this race, John. Second in the Florida Derby. Now, that was over a sloppy track, but if you start logically looking at it like that, you have to go back to Mohaymen then and say, well, here's a horse that everybody thought should have been at the top of the list. He clearly doesn't run his race on that sloppy track. Now, is he over the top? Well, if you look at that work last week at Churchill Downs, actually this week, this past Wednesday, first work at Churchill, he works 46 and a bullet in there.
Wow.
You see a picture of it here, and to me, you know, flesh-wise, he looks good. And really, that's what's going to be important, John. We talk about how wide open it feels like this year. Like, you know, we're going to look back and say, okay, we talked about it. Yeah, that 25-1 shot won the Derby, a la Giacomo or a la, you know, whatever. And we say, okay, it figured. Watching these horses in the next 15 days leading up to the race are really going to be important, in my opinion. So I can't wait to get over there to Churchill Downs and Keeneland. And it could start as early as in the morning. We could see Nyquist breeze at Keeneland.
Yeah, and we went and saw Nyquist just kind of jog the other day. The horse looks relaxed. I mean, you do have to say he's settled into his environment. I kind of want to see him a little more on his toes. I'm hoping that, you know, if he does work tomorrow, that we see a good breeze out of him. Let's look at the TCI top 10 before we go. I just want to see, you know, what you think. How much did it shake up in the Arkansas Derby?
Yeah, and that's why I think, you know, the Arkansas Derby really didn't shake it up that much. You know, we made our evaluations. Most of these horses have had their final preps in the book. So our top 5 is not going to change. I'm going to leave it the same just because Creator won. You know, it really didn't surprise me. I didn't think that race was that good, particularly when Whitmore, I didn't think fired. You know, people say he got in some trouble in there, but I go back and watch that race, and he was the one I really keyed on, he and Creator in the race. Still going back and looking at it, I don't think Whitmore had many excuses. He looks like a horse that's either struggling to get the extra ground now, or perhaps a horse that could be, you know, we've seen some of the side effects of a long campaign now, where he's just, you know, maybe going the other direction. So Whitmore comes off my list. Creator basically takes his spot now as the Arkansas Derby winner, and everybody else sort of stays in place. You know, Outwork I have in the 10 spot as a Grade 1 winner, but you know, I could have Gun Runner in there. I mean, really, I think your winner is going to come from my top 9. So I'm really anxious to see my top 9 in particular training at Keeneland and Churchill over the next couple weeks leading up to the Derby. And that could cause a total reshift of this top 10. Like I said, I left it alone. We've seen most of these horses run. Seeing them in person in a wide open year like this is going to be ultra crucial, in my opinion, how this top 10 is going to end up.
All right, before we go, Oaks update. I saw Landover Sea as well when we were at Keeneland. Yeah. Filly looks great. The connections over there, very high on Landover Sea. They say expect her to run her best race yet.
Yeah, and I like Karina Mia a little bit, and she's not going to get in. She's a few out in the also eligible list. But again, you want to talk about wide open race. With Songbird now, unfortunately, defecting, you know, we were going to see maybe a Star Rachel Alexander type performance. That would have been fun. But now, on the betting side, you're going to see a ton of fun with a wide open 14-horse field, John. That's going to be another great betting event. Might be one of the best Oaks Derby combinations from a wide open betting standpoint and having 2 full fields that we've seen in a while.
All right, looking forward to getting your feedback from the horses at Churchill. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We're going to be going to Churchill, looking at these horses, and letting you know what we see.